Good evening and welcome back to Everyday Man of God. It is great to have you here. As always, I am grateful and thankful that you're able to join me this evening. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about the gold standard, a little bit about FDR, the welfare system, and what I think is going to be happening in the future. There's a reason why I made a podcast not too long ago, a couple days ago, or was it 2 days ago? I did talk about gold and silver and how we should kind of remain silent on these things. I have a great concern that we are not using discernment as a people, especially Christians, but those who are hoarding things. On the evening of March 9th, 1933, a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Emergency Banking Act, or Relief Act. He passed it about a week after his inauguration. It was the first piece of legislation. It was 15 that were going to happen in 100 days. And some of you that study history will know exactly what it is. It is the New Deal, which was a raw deal, which was a bad deal, which was a kick-the-can deal, which was to save people. And why did this have to go into action? Because he came into office amid a banking panic, the same banking panic that he was involved with in 1929, the crash. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm focusing on one area, but he was involved in it in the first place. Part of the problem, and he wants to be the solution. So, what did I just say? A banking panic. What has happened recently? Banking panics. You see a trend here? There's a continuous amount of people and higher-ups who want to bail out banks. If you got rid of the bank, you might just be better off, which is what I think we really should do in most cases. If a bank fails, then it fails. To me, it seems pretty simple, but I'm just a simple man. Now you have to understand, we were on a gold standard in the late 1800s and all the way up till this point, but that wasn't good enough. In fact, on March 8th, 1933, he had said that the gold standard was safe. This is the same man that gave a speech at a Sheraton hotel and said, "We will not be involved in any war across seas. We will not be involved in anything." And records have shown that the day before, he was already sending troops. What a surprise. He's a liar. Yes, he's a Democrat, but he's not the only lies. Republicans do too. I've told you this before. I'm not standing on one and not the other. So it should be no surprise that this happened. Not at all. But where is he going to get this money? That has to be the most important part of this, right? Where in the world is he going to get the money? If we're in a depression, everything is failing, where's the money coming from? Someone has to have money in a country that's gone down. Well, on April 5th, 1933, remember now it's March, it's April, January, February, March, April, passes all these legislations, but he needs money. He takes us off the gold standard. Think about that. He's going to pay for it by taking us off the gold standard that we've been on for so long. He was worried about a devaluation, which that means is a dollar not worth a dollar anymore. He justified that statement by seizing people's gold. As I said, on April 5th, 1933, Roosevelt commanded all citizens to surrender their gold to the government. No one was permitted or allowed to own then, I think, what, $100? Yes, $100. They were not allowed to own more than $100 in gold coins, except for unique situations. Because they felt gold was held in private hoards. Why did I say herds? Hoards. So they were concerned, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, the hero of the modern Democrats, they were concerned that people might actually be hoarding gold. And silver wasn't concerned. But look at what's going on today. The government's worried about people hoarding food and gold and silver, but they focus a lot on food too now. That's a big issue too. We don't want anybody being self-sufficient now. That can't do. That can't do. Roosevelt literally labeled anyone who did not surrender his gold a hoarder. His executive order defined hoarding as the withdrawal and withholding of gold coins, gold bullion, or gold certificates. And it wasn't that he was concerned with the gold being in the normal channels of trade. He wanted government to possess all the gold. And the idea that people were withholding their gold merely because they didn't want to rush to the nearest Federal Reserve Bank to surrender it was basically a political move at best. He had quite the disdain, not only for black people, but quite the disdain for people who held their own gold. And again, they bailed everyone out. Now, a lot of people talk about this. I was just recently listening to Milton Friedman about it, actually. Not this particular part of it. Was talking about the welfare system because, again, that started under FDR. And I'm going to pause as I take a sip of my water. And there's a dramatic, it wasn't that dramatic. It's amazing how we keep falling for the same thing. Why? Because history repeats itself. And we keep on repeating history. And why did he take us off the gold standard? Simple. Because of the failure of the banks and the Great Depression. And some folks were hoarding gold. Think about that. And this is why I've talked about this. Stop telling people you have gold and silver and food. In fact, there is a law, and I don't remember where it is. I was looking at it not too long ago. I can't remember now. But there was that it was actually, somebody figured out in the mid-2000s that it's actually, the law was never erased. It was just suspended, which means that law could go back into place, even though Nixon took us back off the gold, or put us on the gold. I can't even pronounce my words right. When Nixon decided, hey, you can have gold again. It's okay. So imagine that. Everybody knows what you have. And then, you let them come and get it. Let them come and take them. Why do people continuously try to create a situation? I don't understand this. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. Use discernment. And for the secular world, use your brain. Stop telling people what you have. Stop putting it out there. Well, God will protect me. Well, see, now you're testing God. God will protect you from things that you get into not of your own will. You make mistakes, you make errors, somebody's out to get you that you don't even know about. You pray, God's got your back. But when you purposely put yourself into situations that you don't need to be in at that time, I wouldn't expect God to be coming. You put yourself there on purpose. You're a willful sinner. So when the government comes knocking on your door because you decide to make Rumble channels, YouTube channels, podcast channels, BitChute channels, Gab channels, Parler channels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, did I leave anything out? MySpace. Actually, that's probably an old one. Just named off a lot of social media. Oh, Truth Social. I forgot about that one. Truth Social. Why? Sometimes I feel like these are the same folks who want to be martyrs. The same people. So in 1933, the first act was the Emergency Banking Act. To, stabilize the banking system. When will we learn to eventually stay away from the banks? Or at least try to stay away from as much as possible. He's a big fan of the Federal Reserve, I'll tell you that right now. And of course, in this particular case, I'm an anti-Democrat all the way. But I'm an anti-Republican in 99% of the cases too, so. So when he signed that executive order 6102 in 1933, he criminalized the possession of gold. Do you don't think it's going to happen again? Absolutely will. I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but why won't it? Why won't it happen again? Give me a good reason why there's no way it would happen again. We always say, well, that can't happen to me, and then it happens. We have to use discernment. Stop making all these issues. Stop bringing people upon you. Now the FDR is also the reason we have federal income tax. That was the Revenue Act of 1942. President Roosevelt once said it was the greatest tax bill in American history. Think about that, Democrats that are listening to this. The Revenue Act, those on the left, and I know a lot of people on the left who've said that they hate taxes. They shouldn't have to pay taxes. Well, your Democratic king is the reason we have it. He's the reason. It actually increased the taxes and the number of Americans that had to be subject to the income tax. And then, not only that, the wealthy, under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, were able to deduct medical and investment expenses. "1943. He's still in office now. A lot of people go, oh, he died in World War II. No, not yet. Not yet. His plans were still active. Congress passed the Current Tax Payment Act that we have in place today, which required employers to withhold taxes from employees' wages and remit them quarterly. There was a time, and by the way, in 1944, the Congress passed the Individual Income Tax Act. There was a time when an employer could just pay the employee. There was a time before minimum wage when people could just be paid for what they were worth. You don't think these times can come again? Like the 501c3s that the government has. Oh, my church is a 501c3. I don't got to pay no taxes. I don't know why I just put an accent on that. You don't think they can come and take that away? They will. They're going to come after your gold. They're going to come after your silver. We know they've already been coming after your gold. I'm sorry, your guns. And I really don't think they're ever going to come after your guns in general. They're going to go after things that you make for guns. The mechanisms. Some that are even made overseas. Whatever's made overseas to put in the particular gun you may have, it'll be gone. You're going to have to go right back to the bow and arrow days. By the way, you can make your own shaft by just taking a branch and putting it over fire. When it's high enough off that fire, you just kind of twist it a little bit until you straighten out a crooked branch, and you'll actually have a shaft. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Be very wary of these people, I'm telling you. And William Howard Taft was a big deal in the tax situation, too. He was a racist. And he's a Republican, just like FDR was a racist and he was a Democrat. In fact, William Howard Taft put up Edward, I think his name is, Edward White. He was a Chief Justice of the United States. Just look that up. You can look that up on your own. He was a Chief Justice of the United States. He was a racist and part of the KKK. And a Democrat, by the way, just so you know. So the Republican appointed a Democrat KKK member. Do you really, really believe that the Republicans and Democrats have always been separate and somehow one was always better than the other? They've been sleeping in the same bed for a long, long time. The welfare system is here. Because of many people, yes. But the beginning of that road was started by FDR. Much like when Lyndon Johnson, the Democrats, said these people need to be helped up to the starting line. He felt that black people couldn't do it on their own. They were too stupid. And they needed help. FDR was the same way. And yet we keep on going down the same path. We keep putting these men on pedestals of some sort of greatness. And remember, it wasn't that long ago that the legal tender, so to speak, was a silver certificate from 1928 to 1958, I think it was. Or no, 58, 59, somewhere in that way. It was a silver certificate, which means you could just get that amount in silver. You could bring that dollar bill or whatever it was. It would say, will pay to the bearer on presentation or demand or something, $1. Forget how it was particularly worded. It was a silver, so you would get that amount in silver. That's how it just worked. So again, you have $1, it's a silver certificate. You had George Washington like it did before, and it would say in silver, payable on demand or something like that. You don't do that now. Not at all. You can't take $1 into somewhere and get silver. That's not going to happen anytime soon, is it? Then in 1963, you got the Federal Reserve note. Kind of promises you that, well, there's something there, maybe, nothing really. Take a $10 bill right now. Well, what's silver? $24, I think, right now. So take a 20 spot. See if you can go get some silver with that at the bank. Turn that paper into get the silver. Ain't gonna happen. And silver once was able to be actually put into a coin. It was the Coin Act? What is it? The Coinage? It was something called the Coinage Act. I should have wrote it down and had it prepared. I wasn't even thinking about talking about it, so didn't look it up But it was the coinage act of some sort that you couldn't do silver and make it a coin, but you could with the gold bullions. You could make those into a coin. But a lot of silver and gold, and that's what people traded on. The whole world trades on it. The whole world. I'm going off the road here a little bit. But there's a reason why wealthy people are buying up the gold and silver as much as possible. And yes, non-wealthy people doing the same thing. But I implore you to do these things quietly and off the books. Because if you don't think you're on a list, you're on a list. I don't care if I'm on a list. Put me on a list. Why? Why do you need to be a center of attention with that? Step back quietly. Like I said before, I will never tell you what I have, what I've had, or what I will have. That's a private conversation people should be having. You can, if you're going to put these type of things out there, make it an inbox. How you want to help people? Tell them to email you. Do it through a VPN. Or even just letter would be even smarter, just through the mail. You can still trust the mail when it comes to that for now. They're not going to open up your mail unless it looks suspicious. I really wanted to talk about that tonight because I don't know, it's been bothering me because I'm worried about the people who are unwittingly doing it too. They think they're helping it, and that's a beautiful thing that you want to help, and you want, hey, this is what you should do. And then you start going to, I got this and I got that. You can come take it, and it gets weird. I'm like, why are you? There's no reason to act a certain way. You don't have to put yourself out there with a big spotlight on you. Make yourself a target. Be smart. Use discernment when you speak. Use wisdom the Lord gives you. Well, that is my short podcast this evening. I don't even know what the title of it's going to be, but I just felt like I had to make this tonight. That was not the plan because this is a Wednesday. Those of you follow me, normally it's a whiteboard Wednesday, but I just wanted to make this podcast this evening. So thank you for your time as always. I appreciate it. God bless and good night.